Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried. Election of vice mayor. I'd like to appoint Commissioner Hayes, or make that nomination of Commissioner Hayes.
I second it.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Designation of official city newspaper. And with that, I would like to recommend the Independence Reporter be established as our official city newspaper.
I second that motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Designation of the official city depository. Kelly, can you help us where you're recommending that we,
A Community National Bank, which is what we have done in the past, and our accounts are there.
okay. Then I would recommend that Community National Bank serve as our official city depository.
Second it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Consider changing the day of the week and time for commission meetings. Commissioners, do you have a recommendation for other date, or are you satisfied with the
I'm
time?
satisfied with the previously accepted schedule for 2021.
Commissioner Ususi?
I'm in agreement with what has been presented.
Okay, with that, then we have the motion, and do I have a second?
I second it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, with that, we will change leadership of mayor. Since you're not present, now Mayor Ususi, would you prefer that Vice Mayor Hayes intercede for you tonight?
Yes, I would be greatly indebted if Vice Mayor Dean Hayes would preside over the meeting for me.
Vice
Very
Mayor,
well.
Do you want to change positions, or?
Is that appropriate at this time?
It's up to you, whatever you two are comfortable with.
You can, you can there if you want to. I'll
Well-
move over. Why don't we?
Thank you.
Good, look, it'll be more convenient, I think. I'll just slide over to Lewis's position.
Mistaken identity.
Mrs. Lewis here.
Very well. All ready, Leonard? I'm ready. The agenda was accepted as presented. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Items for commission action. Item A, consider authorizing staff to draft modifications to city code related to HVAC and mechanical work. Kelly?
And this is actually an item that the Assistant City Manager worked on, and he can review with you.
Mayor, we have received requests from local citizens and from some HVAC asking that we consider putting in place HVAC or mechanical codes. The city does have the 2012 mechanical code adopted that we do utilize for new construction and approving new buildings and the HVAC systems in them. This would go more to making sure our local contractors have the proper licensing and certain different types of installation and work is inspected. We're asking for some direction from the commission on how to proceed with this and working with the local HVAC companies and people, potentially forming a board similar to the electrical board or the plumbing board and letting them help develop this. Currently surrounding us, Parsons and Coffeyville do have codes that they follow and stipulate and do for the mechanical codes. that
Similarly
is
to
our
what we
request.
did with the abatement consultant that was utilized for the historic building.
And we do have a local surveying company that we've used on other local projects, so that would be an option there, and then just recommendations on geotech.
Yes.
With the survey, I guess at some point, we would need to establish new property lines for the fire EMS to separate it from the parcel, the entire parcel. Would that be worked with you as a consultant to determine the amount of property needed, or is that just between the city and the land surveyor?
So what I would suggest is that we bring the civil engineer as part of our team and that we look at the proposed concepts that have been done, look at the existing hospital facility, and come up with recommendations on what we believe works well for the city in retaining the fire and EMS building, as well as what will work well for a future owner or purchaser of the existing hospital site. So we would do that and work with you to determine what is appropriate land around the fire and EMS building.
Okay. So at what point we had discussed at one of the meetings about the construction manager at risk option and the traditional role bidding contractor, when would that need to be pursued?
That's a good question. As you've talked in the past, you had talked about alternative project delivery methods, different from the traditional design, then you bid it and then you build it. And as Chris and I had talked with the commission earlier, there are advantages on this particular project to look at a construction manager at risk. And the advantage to this is to have the overall general contractor on board as part of the design process. And that way they can assist with two main roles during design. One is assisting with constructability issues, and that would work well both for the renovation of Historic City Hall as well as we're adding on to the existing fire and EMS building. The second is that they would take over the role of developing cost estimates during the design. Contractors certainly have a better handle or pulse on subcontractor and material pricing, and so a CM at risk would be able to make sure that we are working within the budget. And this is the other advantage really is that we have two separate projects or buildings on two separate sites. And there could certainly be advantages to the city to have that under one contract. And of course, when you look at bringing a construction manager at risk on board, we would recommend that the city go through a formal request for qualifications and request for proposal process, which would involve sending out an RFP, an RFQ, reviewing those, determining a short list, a smaller number of contractors or construction managers to then interview, and then you make the selection. With a construction manager at risk, they do provide pricing information or fee information for pre-construction services that I mentioned, as well as the oversight fees during the construction of the project. And please remember that when you look at a construction manager at risk, typically they do bid out all the work associated with subcontractors. So you do receive competitive bids as part of the process of using a construction manager at risk. Because there is an advantage of having them as part of the design process, we believe it would be a benefit to move forward with that selection process, and the goal would be to have them involved in the project during that design development phase. And that design development phase is an appropriate time to bring them on, because at the end of design development is when you have a finalized project design, and cost estimating at that phase is extremely important. We certainly have worked with a number of counties and municipalities in assisting them, so we can do the same thing with you. We have example RFQs and RFPs that others have used in the past that we can share with you and the city manager and the city attorney. And so our recommendation would be is if you are looking at this alternative delivery method, that this is something that probably should move forward within a timely fashion.
Now, by utilizing the construction manager at risk, as you're going through the project design and with your MEP consultants, do they help advise on material selection so that you can benefit with their knowledge for control of costs?
So yes, absolutely. The advantage of a construction manager at risk is they have trade partners that they do reach out to and have conversations with all the time about products or elements that, for example, are having trouble procuring right now, or that have gone up in price because of the pandemic that we're in. So having the CM at risk involved as part of that design process, they help us with equipment choices and systems and materials as we look at finalizing design decisions.
With the design process, the costs are usually harder to get as you go through, but this way we're getting pricing for the bid basically at design development or early contract documentation fee schedule.
Yes, both. Yes, you're correct, Commissioner, in that the more information that is put down on paper and recorded, the more accurate the cost estimates can be. The advantage of having that contractor or construction manager on board early is, as I mentioned, they certainly know materials and subcontracting issues that may be arising, so they can certainly help. In addition to that, scheduling the project, making sure that we understand the length of time that it might take in order to do the renovation or the addition to the fire and EMS building.
Okay. Um, I think that was kind of the questions that I had noted, other, Commissioner Hayes, Commissioner Ususi, do you have specific questions for Vance at this time, or?
I have none. Commissioner Ususi?
Gentlemen, thank you. Commissioner Kaplish, thank you for presenting a lot of thorough questions that highlight this design process that we're looking at. I really don't have any further questions, but I would like to see us continue to move forward on this project. But thank you for your input. And Vance, thank you for your providing the additional information that helps us along in this process.
So for us to continue on, I think we need to authorize you to proceed with 1916 City Hall, authorize you to prepare owner-architect agreement for fire EMS, and then begin looking at a construction manager at risk. We would need, if you mentioned that you had some documents that you could send, RFPs, RFQs, and other additional information for construction manager at risk.
Yes, that's correct.
So that way, shortly after we get your information on construction manager risk, commissioners and staff review that, then we could come back with some questions concerning that to move ahead, if that's the direction that we decide to go with construction of it. So, do you have anything that you would recommend that we haven't discussed so far tonight, Vance?
Commissioner, those were the three components or issues that I believe needed to be addressed. City Hall, we certainly can move forward with quickly, preparing the proposal for fire and EMS and making sure that the City of Independence is satisfied with the scope of work and the fee. And then, of course, if you are looking at the alternative delivery method, we can assist with that, and we would make sure that we provide that information. So those were the three components that I believe were worthy of discussion tonight.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, if I might, I'd make a motion that we authorize Trainer HL to proceed with their contract on the 1916 City Hall and submit a schedule of work. Also prepare an owner-architect agreement for the fire EMS facility. So that's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Did you get that motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Vance.
You're welcome. And we'll work with Kelly to get the information to you as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Vance. Appreciate your input this evening.
You're welcome.
We have item 7 on the agenda this evening is reports. We have city board minutes from the Planning Commission, Board of Appeals, Library, and Rec Commission. Did the commissioners have any questions on those minutes?
I had no questions.
Commissioner?
I have no questions.
Thank you. report on the 911 interruption of service on November 29th, 2020. Do you have any, Jerry, do you have additional comments to add?
No, no, sir, I don't. I have a lengthy presentation here, but it's whatever direction you need me to go, I'm happy to go. But I can keep it brief.
I was able to read the presentation that you had prepared for us, and I think that it was thorough. Do the other commissioners have questions for Jerry, Chief Harrison, this evening?
No, I agree. I think his presentation was quite thorough. The only question I would have, there was a comment in it that you made about backup location. You explained the difference with the north and the south,
Yes.
that possibly our backup currently was still in the south sector, and you had recommended or mentioned looking at, instead of utilizing an alternate in the south sector, to select an alternate in the north. Is that
Correct. What, just in a nutshell, when a situation like this occurs, the agreements take effect, and you would call 911, it would ring about 9 times. Our center wouldn't be able to respond. It would go to our secondary backup, ring 9 times, tertiary backup, ring 9 times, and then to whatever host follows, or whatever backup follows after that. So what we found is we had excessive ring times over 2 minutes, as if they didn't stay on the call, that just recycled. So the one message I'd like to get out to the community is, if you call and your 911 is an excessive ring time, stay with it. It's extremely important that you stay with it, because otherwise you're going right back to the beginning of the process. So as far as resiliency goes, we're looking at reducing those ring times, particularly after the primary backup is engaged, so that you cycle through the backups quicker and get to a functioning center sooner. And a part of that, in this scenario, we needed to have our north host in place. We thought we had our north host in place, but this uncovered that we have a few, we need to get that worked out. So other than that, there's some other resiliency things that we talked about changing in there, but those were the 2 major ones that I put out to all the chiefs around the state that manage PSAPs.
so? You are enacting your recommendations locally?
Yes, we are in the process of getting that done. Those are agreements. Some of them have to go to legislative bodies such as yourself, depending on the organization and what their city policies are.
Very good. Well, that was the only thing that I had questioned, whether we were proceeding with your recommendations or where we stood on that.
We
So-
are, yes. I had meetings with our dispatch center. As soon as we got a report in and found out what caused well, we don't know what caused the problem. That's a problem. But that's at the very high technical level, not at even the council's level. So that investigation's underway. They'll report back to us. They'll come up with a preventative measure. But in the meantime, there are things that we can do. We don't sit and wait. We improve our operation. And so that's what we're in the process of. And I'd be happy to report back to you guys when we have those measures addressed.
Thank you. That was the only question I had, Vice Mayor.
Commissioner Ususi?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. City manager comments?
Yes, we did get word that our EDA grant that we applied for on the Whiskey Creek project was not approved. There was not available funding for that. We're looking at other alternatives for that one. David, if you go to the next one. And just a reminder of the MLK event Sunday that we will be broadcasting on our Facebook and also on Channel 65 for those that have local cable. And also City Hall will be closed on Monday for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Is there another one? Okay. That's it.
And our work session Wednesday at
The 20th at 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
Is that everything, Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner comments? Commissioners?
I have no comments.
Commissioner Susie?
Mr. Commissioner Susie, I have none also.
I have none as well. Do we have any public concerns to bring before the commission this evening? None that are filled out? Would anyone like an opportunity to fill out a piece of paper? In that case, I have an executive session. We'll be going into executive session this evening. I move we recess for an executive session for consultation with the city's attorney regarding possible litigation pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception, KSA 754319B2. Time is currently 6:33. How much time do we need for this session?
Jeff, what do you think? I'd say 10 to 15.
15 minutes. We'll resume at 6. Let's just make it 6:50. 6:50 p.m. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. In attendance will be the commissioners, the city attorney, city manager, and assistant city manager.
Lewis, we will call you
Oh,
to
okay.
get in there, okay?
All right, thanks. Okay, Kelly, thank you.
We're back in session, executive session. There was no action taken, so we're at adjournment. So I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second the
It's been
motion.
moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you for being here this evening.